Hey fellow golfers, this is Robbie from Best Ball. One of the most popular names in the golf accessory market today is Western Birch. Stop reaching in your pocket for boring plastic or plain white golf tees and elevate your game with premium wooden golf tees from Western Birch. You can customize both the hardwood and bamboo tees with one of their signature stripe patterns in a wide variety of colors. These tees are stylish enough to stand apart from the crowd, traditional enough to align with golf's heritage, and durable enough to make you forget about using anything else. Enter the code BESTBALL in the promo field in your shipping cart to add a free gift to your order. So visit westernbirch.com and get your own premium wood golf tees in the style that suits your game.
I have so little interest in playing 36 holes. Maybe people are just going to unsubscribe from the podcast for me saying that. It's just a lot of golf. How do you stay focused?
I like 36 holes. I don't know if I could do 36 holes at our course just because it is like walking and it just takes it out of you.
It really does. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. But if I was going to do 36 holes, it better be with a lot of gimmies and a lot of.
It's like most rounds with you.
Oh, yeah. Can you picture me doing 36 holes of golf?
Not even a little bit. You would just pick up like every hole on the back on the last 18.
Hello and welcome to the Caddie Tales Podcast. I'm Mark the Caddy, joined once again by my friend, colleague, sidekick, and all-around great caddy and guy, Nick. And we're excited to talk to you again about how this beautiful game of golf intersects with the beautiful game we call life and how lessons can translate from both arenas so that we can grow and just enjoy all the blessings that are out there. So how are you today, Nick?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing probably a little better than you are. I know you got a little loop coming up this afternoon, and there's rain in the forecast, so that's never fun.
This is definitely our highest humidity.
Yeah, it's been crazy humid
so far. Yesterday, my uniform I should have just thrown it away when I was done. It was absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
So it's like when you jump into a pool. So
yeah.
But you know what? Clothes look better. Those Holderness and Bourne duds that you have on here today and that I have in my closet. So, hey, those of you listening out there, check out hbgolf.com. Use the promo code BESTBALL for deals and pick yourself up some great tailored golf gear that also fits nice and loose. They kind of mastered it so that it doesn't feel bulky or like it's hanging on you, and yet that tailored look also doesn't feel like it is hugging you too tight. So check them out at hbgolf.com. Tell them Best Ball sent you with that promo code BESTBALL. All right, Nick, as we get going here today, as always, we like to just start with our favorite moment of the week. What do you got?
So yesterday I had a loop where it was the dreaded 4-caddy 1, which is not a favorite amongst the caddies because you're just not going to get paid quite as much, and you're just kind of with one guy the whole day. But it turned out to be good. I really enjoyed the company with the fellow I was with, and turned out to be a nice guy. And I just had a great day.
Yeah. So for those of you listening, a 4-caddy job for one person means that they're taking a cart on the course that allows carts, and instead of bag carrying for them, you are just along for the ride with them. As a matter of fact, as I was finishing yesterday on the 18th hole on that course, Nick was driving by like a boss, going from the 9th hole to the 10th hole. And you know what? Yesterday it wasn't a bad gig to be able to drive a cart.
Exactly.
It was pretty disgusting out there.
Yeah.
And so you looked pretty happy. Glad it worked out for you. There's times where I'm sure it doesn't, but you and your introverted self rose to the occasion. I'm sure you provided him with many laughs and great conversation.
Oh yeah. I told him about the podcast. He was very, very into that. So
cool. Cool. My favorite moment, it's hard. There was a number of them. I had some really good loops this last week. I got to caddy for someone who's very active on golf Twitter. Many of you listeners might know Jake Weaver, Midwest Golf Jake. He was actually one of my first followers a number of years ago now. I think I started my account in 2021. So we're talking 3 years. And he was definitely one of the first followers. And I remember a comment he made very early on when I was kind of like maybe tweeting a little bit of the stuff where caddies would maybe make fun of players. And he was a little sensitive to it, kind of like, man, I don't know that I ever want to take a caddy if this is how you guys think of it. But you know what? It was really good that he said that, because it made me stop and pause and be like, yeah, why am I being a jerk? You know, there's so much more to it than just making fun of the bad shots or certain behaviors or whatever. I mean, there are those things that sometimes make you scratch your head, but like we all have those moments in life. So, it was great to meet him and his buddies and to be able to caddy for them. There was also another guy who's very active on golf Twitter with them. And then yesterday I had another guy that I had met through golf Twitter. He ordered some books from me for Christmas for his folks and stuff. So, and we had chatted a bit then. And he actually had won a round on the course yesterday.
Oh, yeah. From
so
one
he
of those
brought his
drawings.
dad. And he was great. And what I liked was the most, I mean, he was a good golfer, and his dad was super cool. His dad was definitely a different demeanor than some of the older guys that we caddy for. He wasn't as in big of a rush or as intense or as, you know, used to being in charge. He was a pretty, he had a very Wisconsin-y vibe to him, very cool, laid back guy. Anyway, Tyler, who I was caddying for, he's in some consulting, and I shared with him how I'm hoping to leverage this podcast and caddy and all that into some other opportunities to be able to provide for my family, especially for when I'm not able to carry as many bags and stuff. And he's like, what you want to do is exactly what I help companies with and stuff. And he's like, and I want to help you for free. And I wouldn't have expected that, but, and he actually just about a half hour ago made sure to follow up. So he was sincere.
Awesome.
And so hopefully we'll have some conversations. And you know, we do meet some pretty talented people out there, Nick. You know,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some quirks they have every now and then. But when you think about it, most high-performing individuals are kind of in a zone or in their own world at times.
Eccentric. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so they, I'm the people that I have really enjoyed caddying for over the years, like career-wise, the entrepreneurs. I love listening to them, and they just, I wish I would have had their spark or drive or knowledge back when I was younger. Absolutely. I really do. But there's still some things that I can incorporate now. So, hey, all right, as we get going on to this week's topic, we're going to talk about the anatomy of a loop. And actually yesterday there was something that happened on it that happens kind of every loop, like the point where somebody hits the wall, kind of, okay? And we see every day. Let me back up just briefly. We're generalizing here, okay? Like, we're talking about what we see often. It doesn't happen on every loop, and I know some listeners will have some anecdotal evidence, and it seems like all of golf Twitter plays from the tips and shoots 74. But, you know, they, on a general daily basis, we kind of see some things that happen on a loop. And it starts right off the first tee when we kind of see those first hole jitters. You know, what's a common tee shot you see out there on the first hole, Nick?
I mean, I see a lot of tops. But even before that, like I was thinking about it. I enjoy when you like look at someone and they're like getting ready to tee up the ball and you can like see their like hands trembling. I really enjoy that. I don't know why. I mean, I would enjoy that, but like it you know, it lets you know how much it means to these people. Like they, you know, they're nervous, they're excited, you know, they're feeling all the feelings, and it's cool.
And golf is the great equalizer. It brings powerful men to a place of humility.
Absolutely.
I still get a kick out of the brain surgeon who literally told me they are more comfortable opening somebody's skull and performing surgery than teeing off in front of a bunch of their buddies or, you know, buddy. I'm like, yeah, that seems reasonable. Wait, not, oh, yeah. Golf is certainly not life or death, but yeah, you'll see that. And then they get nervous, and, you have kind of I haven't played in a while, or, oh, my back hurts, or those kind of little disclaimers. And that's usually an opportunity for the caddy to tell the player, hey, we've seen it all.
We've seen it all. Said it a million times. Yep.
And we don't really care, do we, about if they're good or bad.
Yeah. I always tell people too, like, you're probably not going to be the worst golfer I've ever seen before in my life. I actually had a guy tell me that last week. He's like, I'm terrible. Like, he ended up being like the best player I caddied for like last week. So yeah.
Yeah. And, so you tell them, we don't really care whether you're good or bad. We've seen it all. Just play quickly, be cool, have fun. That's a good opportunity to get that conversation out of the way. You talk about people topping the ball. I see a lot of swings where the ball goes like 200 yards right.
Yeah, it's pretty common, yeah.
Yeah, so and then they do a breakfast ball and it goes down the middle, or they're not bad players. It's just total excitement, swinging too fast, whatever. It's just a common thing, and so then things calm down and. You learn, okay, this first hole might not be indicative of what we're in for. Sometimes it is, but not always. Yeah. And so also you get a feel on the first hole for, okay, are these guys grinders? What are they going to do on the putting green as far as how long they stand over a putt? Do they give gimmies? So while there's some things we see commonly on the tee box, on that hole, there's also some thoughts that are generally going through the caddy's head as they're feeling things out.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because like you'll meet someone at the bag drop and you'll be like, oh, this guy's like super cool, super chill, and then you get out there and he's like, how much of the bunker, blah blah blah, like, and he's got a million questions and you're like, oh, he's not quite as chill as I thought, but that's all right. It's our job.
That actually brings up one other thing about that before we move on is I laugh at the amount of questions guys ask on the first hole. And the way they overthink it.
And compared to like 18, where they're just like, all right, I'll just hit it.
Basically grab whatever club and just start racing.
Exactly.
I mean, it is comical. Okay, how far to that? How do I really need driver? And then they grab two or three, they put their club back in their bag and then they grab another one and they do that little dance or whatever. And finally you're like, hey, when pros have played here, they all hit driver. So if they if they hit driver, you can probably hit driver from the same spot. You don't need to dial it back. And so, but definitely 10 times more questions early on than later in the round for the vast majority of loops that we do. And so that's kind of funny. Now you go on for a few holes. Here's something that I really love on our course too is all the holes you can see the water, but 14 holes are directly along Lake Michigan. And when you're walking from the first hole to the second hole and you walk over the hill and all of a sudden you see this lake there, do you ever just hear your players ooh and ah? Like,
yeah, they're like, yeah, wow, that's stunning. Obviously, what I hear the most is, how's that not an ocean?
Yeah. It is amazing to me how many people do not know the Great Lakes, the vastness of that, but I guess if you didn't grow up here and vacation on them and stuff, but that's always nice for me is when you do have players that react that way because you're like, all right, take it in. You're someplace special, and you get to do some stuff that is a real privilege. So don't focus so much on what you got on the last hole that you're missing something majestic, literally majestic. So, then you play the second, third holes, whatever. What I think is the next marker of the round, usually for me, I've noticed it happens on hole 4 or 5, Nick, and that is, what realization does the player come to on one of those two holes very often?
Usually it's like, I'm not going to shoot my record low score here today, but hopefully they're realizing that they're there to have fun and enjoy the course and all that good stuff.
And that's, again, we're not making fun of like their scoring or anything, but
no, absolutely not.
Usually around hole 4 or 5, they realize, okay, this is different than.
It's challenging, very challenging.
It's not the same as my home club. It's not a municipal course. This is a championship, amazingly difficult golf course, and the conditions are often a little bit tougher. And so around hole 4 or 5, there's this little concession, like, yeah, I'm not going low today. Okay, that doesn't mean they all give up. It just means like the score that they set at the bag drop they were aiming for.
Yeah.
Usually it's like, okay, maybe that's not going to happen. So then, and then, you know, there's also something that kind of happens when you're on those holes. We have a beverage cart that you walk past on the way to hole 3, and a lot of times, guys, I'm good, you know. And then when you walk past it again on hole 6, it's like, okay, now it's time. You know, we need either something to calm the nerves or to settle us down, or again, this isn't going to be my lowest round ever, so let's have a drink.
It's always like a big telltale sign too when we see it for the first time. You know, if guys are grabbing a bunch of drinks and stuff like that, you're like, well, they're here to party, I guess. So that is a marker. Is when you walk past hole 2, if they order a bunch of double somethings, you're like, okay, they're here to party. And then but a lot of times too, they pass it up and then they decide, I need something on hole 6. Calm the nerves.
So, you know, then from there, you know, you go through the remainder of the front 9, and you have some good ones, you have some bad ones. Then you get to the turn window, and players are often asked by the girl who's working at the turn window, or maybe they see somebody from the golf staff or whatever, how is your round going? Now, here is something that I wish would change. What kind of response do most players give?
They're usually like, well, I'm not playing the greatest, but I'm having fun. So that's usually what I hear a lot. Good.
But almost always, I hear somebody couch their answer in negative terms.
Yeah, that's not good.
You know, like, you know, and then there's a sign that's like, there, golfers only beyond this point. And, golfers only, I guess I can't go. Yeah. And, but I think that, like, on the one hand, you want people to be very realistic and humble about golf. But that's different than just being negative. And I was talking with another caddy. I got to give a shout out to my caddy friend, Carrie, for pointing this out to me.
Carrie,
Yeah. Who is the ultimate realist, right?
He's a beaut, yeah.
But he told me, and I tweeted about this the other day because I got to thinking about it a lot more, that players almost always are looking for their golf ball ahead of where their golf ball is lost. Okay, so they hit a drive into the gunk, and they're looking for that golf ball 40 yards ahead of where it is instead of 40 yards, you know, behind.
I'm very guilty of doing that. I've done that numerous times. My buddies always make fun of me.
Yeah, right.
How far do you think you hit it?
What's interesting about that is that we don't take that optimism and translate it oftentimes into how we talk. So, you know, guys almost always, if you ask guys how far they hit a certain club, they're saying a distance that's further than what they actually hit it. Okay. So we've got, on the one hand, that kind of optimism or positivity. And yet almost always at the turn window, when somebody's asked how their round is going, they couch it in negative terms. And, you know, the golf isn't great, but, you know, it's pretty. You know, that's good that it's pretty. But, you know, I'll usually use that as an opportunity to remind them, you've hit a lot of good ones. You know, true. You're doing just fine. But somewhere along the line, when people talk about their golf game, they have been trained to couch it in negative terms. And even the grinders, you know, as they're going through the round, when they hit the ball somewhere, you know, you'll hear yelling and stuff after the bad ones. But even when they hit a good one, they find a way to be like, little heely. You know, I got it a little off the
spinny.
You know, find some way to be negative about it. It's like, dude, you just hit it on the green from 200 yards away. Let's celebrate. You know.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
And so at the turn window, it's an opportunity to kind of say, okay, what kind of the rest of the day are we going to have? Are we going to approach this with some enthusiasm and some positivity, or is it going to be a death march? And so, yeah, that's just something I kind of see. What do you think about that, Nick?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, you don't hear enough like, oh yeah, I birdied 3. You know, it's always like, oh yeah, I tripled the last hole or something like that. You know?
Yeah. It's just something that I think people would be well served to work on. You know, maybe it's they're afraid that if they are, they're not. They're going to jinx themselves, or they're being not realistic or whatever. But it's not realistic to just be negative, because with almost all of our loops, there is some really, really good shots mixed in with the ones that they're focused on being bad shots. You know, it's not like we caddy for a ton of people where every shot is bad. So it's not realistic to say that you're playing poorly. You know, you're, on a lot of shots, you're playing extremely well.
Yep.
So, hey, all of you making that turn, recognize that, like we talk about on this show all the time, there is a next shot. There's a new 9. It's full of hope and opportunity. And what was behind you wasn't as bad as you think either. So, you know, so in the progression of a loop, after the turn window, the 10th hole on our course is a pretty hard one to walk. People have usually just shoved some food in to their face. And so you're hoping that they've recharged. But, you know, I'll take a step back and talk about the caddies for a second there, Nick. How are you usually feeling as you make the turn? Do you feel energized? Do you feel hopeful? Like, okay, we're more than halfway there? Do you feel like, oh my gosh, we still got a lot to go?
Usually it's...
And so I'm wondering what you think.
Usually it's like I really have to pee, so I just go use the bathroom really quick. And I try not to get any food, but sometimes, like, especially if you're on a double, you kind of cave and get some food. But, yeah, you don't really want to eat too much out there because you just get, like, sluggish. So, yeah, not really refreshed, just kind of like it's the turn and you're halfway home.
Yeah, and, then, you know, as we go through 10, I'm always, like, starting to feel a little bit like, all right, we can do this, because it's 5 hours, and so you're just kind of going in a little progression. So I always feel like a little bit energized, but then the walk on that particular hole is always like, oh my gosh, now I can feel it in my legs and stuff. And so anyways, but that's, you know, usually players are still feeling okay, or they're rejuvenated. You know, they're going to try to do something positive to get the back 9 going again well. And so, you know, hole 10 is
it's a good hole to start on, to restart it,
Yeah. And so you don't really see anything too crazy in the progression of a loop as far as players until about hole 14. Now, sometimes on a long par 5, hole 11, you start to see people really fall apart. But usually where you really see a change in people is hole 14. And I have almost a firm belief that golf should only be like 12 or 13 holes now, because it's like clockwork. What happens on hole 14?
I don't know. It's just like everybody's stamina just gives out. But I think on our course, especially because we go back into the wind on hole 14, so everybody's starts to feel it a little more, I guess. Yeah.
But, you know, people could be hitting good tee shots the whole day, and I see more people lose the tee shot, more bad tee shots on hole 14 maybe than any other hole, or that starts a string of bad tee shots if they're going to start coming out, you know. Yeah. And it's not a particularly difficult hole. It's just, okay, people have hit their limit. And actually, I was just on a loop with a guy, young guy, really good player, and he was with his parents, and his parents had just traveled in, and so it was already a long kind of day for them. And on hole 14, I went over by him, and he was like, I think my parents are starting to lose it. Yeah. And I said, yeah, your mom's level of give a crap is pretty low right now. And, you know, we laughed, and because they were there, and they certainly were having a good time with their son and whatever. But I'm not convinced that if a cart came out and said, hey, you guys want to go back in, that at least mom would have said, yeah, I'm good. Let's go. But I find that mentally and physically, people have about 12 or 13 holes in them, generally speaking. I'm not talking about the grinders and the guys who are, living and breathing this. I'm just talking your average loop.
Yeah, and I can't even imagine those guys that do 36, how they must feel in their second 18.
I have so little interest in playing 36 holes. Maybe people are just going to unsubscribe from the podcast for me saying that. It's just a lot of golf. How do you stay focused?
I like 36 holes. I don't know if I could do 36 holes at our course just because it is like walking and, it just takes it out of you.
It really does. Yeah, maybe, yeah. But if I was going to do 36 holes, it better be with a lot of gimmies and a lot of...
it's like most rounds with you.
Oh, yeah. Can you picture me doing 36 holes of golf?
Not even a little bit. You would just pick up like every hole on the back on the last 18. Like you'd probably just pick up your tee ball and just put it in your pocket.
I mean, I love playing golf, but there's just a limit to my grindiness. Okay, so then there's a question that I am asked on hole 15 on our course all the time. And it's a funny question because it tells you, again, it speaks to that theme of people being tired. And it's a long par 4, but inevitably a few times a week somebody's like, is this a par 5? And you look at them and you're like, no, just a long par 4. Well, and into the wind, and but the look they give you, that's maybe the first time the look is one of just defeat. Like,
yeah, I can't get there.
Yeah, I mean, just like, are you serious? And also around this time, maybe hole 14, 15, sometimes a little sooner, but certainly by this time, for most players, you know how we talked about on the first hole, they're asking you all these questions and stuff.
Yeah.
The questions on hole 14 and following are nil, pretty much.
Where do I aim? Yeah.
If that, just whatever. And so like hole 1, it might be they're grilling you for this very precise distance to play the ball because of the wind, okay, it's 130 now. Do you think I should do 142 or 145 or whatever, And then by hole 14, it's just grab the same comfort club out of their bag that they are going to hit on most shots.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So hole 16, then we get to, and this is another one where I want to talk more about the caddies.
Okay.
Because it's the same kind of thing with the players that you have, like, that they're kind of maybe not hitting it well or whatever. But for the caddies, I think this is the hole where they're like, oh man, I need to be done.
This is where I hit my wall. Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. Yeah. Yeah, it's very challenging.
One night we had a fun group text amongst us that we can't really divulge on air because this is a family program, but things we would rather do than caddy hole 16 into the wind.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nick, can you think of anything you'd rather do than caddy hole 16 into the wind for a high handicap player that is, suitable for children?
I would rather put your used caddy suit on from the other day.
That's actually really good.
Thanks.
I mean, I'm thinking of throwing away the one that I've worn the last couple of days.
You really should. That's disgusting.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of things I would rather do on some days. Like it just feels, if a player feels defeated from some holes earlier, like when they're hitting their drive on 16, I just feel like if it goes really far right, which often it does, I just feel like that's the time you're going to see me kind of slump my shoulders and have this look of absolute just anguish on my face because it's going to take 20 plus minutes to play the hole, and you're going to be all over the place and whatever, and it's into a gusty wind. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. I'm always thinking about how if the player hits it right, the other guy's going to hit it so far left.
It's unbelievable. You know, people out there, we're not just making this stuff up because we think it sounds good or because we're whiners. It literally happens like that. If a guy hits it to, you know, the 11th hole far right, the next guy's going to hit it toward the lake far left. And it's like, why do they punish us that way?
I don't know. It's got to be like something subconsciously. Like,
yeah, right.
This guy.
I mean, obviously, they don't want to be doing. They want to be hitting it straight down the middle for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I like when people apologize too, and I'm like, I know you didn't like mean to hit it there. It's okay.
Yeah. So, but then there's this weird thing that happens after hole 16. Is there's just a little bit of rejuvenation that takes place because hole 17 is a par 3.
It's beautiful.
And so, you know, most likely, unless it just all heck breaks loose, you're not like going on some, you know, forever walk, you know, and it's kind of an iconic hole and it's beautiful and whatever. And it just feels like the finish line is in sight. And so there's just a little bit of rejuvenation that takes place.
Yeah, I agree. And you can see some birdies there, and it'll lift people's spirits. And then you kind of got 18 just kind of peeking its head up right around the corner.
Right. But the thing about 18, it's a hard hole, and again, that's one where all heck can break loose. But I guess that gets to the anatomy of a loop that's pretty remarkable. We kind of start with this excitement and all this eagerness and focus, and then through the round that all kind of ebbs and flows and wanes, and there's peaks and valleys and all of that. But almost inevitably on hole 18, especially when you're on the green, there's this expression of gratitude or expression of wow and a desire to come back, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, everyone's usually like super thankful for, you know, us putting up with them. A lot of people phrase it like that, which I wouldn't phrase it like that. You know, I enjoy everyone's company for the most part. But
No, I think this, you know, golf has got this beautiful thing about it where it challenges you, and yet it also inspires you and encourages you. It discourages you, but it also lifts you up. It's just an absolutely beautiful game in that regard. But also, I think then there's this moment of reflection where you're like, hey, I'm really thankful for the people I was just with and for the opportunity that I just had. And maybe just for a moment that sometimes gets lost during the course of the round, people are expressing that kind of respect and awe and gratitude that I really like to see. So people want to come back. They don't really swear off the game like they did earlier in the round. You know they'll be back. So, you know, every day is different, no doubt about it. You have different types of players and you have different personalities, but there's nothing that's, you know, completely cookie cutter about this. But hopefully you guys get a glimpse out there for some of the things that just kind of generally and regularly happen and are fun to see. Like, I just had to chuckle when I heard that guy say that about his parents. Oh yeah, they're losing, and we're on hole 14, and I know that we're talking about this on the podcast.
Yeah.
I'm like, perfect, you know, and it's like clockwork, you know.
Yeah.
So anyways, if you ever come on out for a loop, we hope to be able to carry those bags, carry that heavy baggage, and lift you up and encourage you so that you can make it through, so that you can kind of ride that wave and ride those highs and lows. Before we conclude here, Nick, good caddy, bad caddy. During the course of a round, like we said, there's an anatomy to a loop. There's all that. There's also good things we do. There's bad things we do, and sometimes they happen on the same day. What's something good you had this past week?
Well, yeah. So I had a double, and it was a long day. And
you doubled, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and I was with a caddy that I don't particularly get along with super well, but yeah, I did my best to get along with him, and I think that was a pretty good job. I mean, that's kind of my bad caddy as well. I can, you know, just try to get along with everyone. Why not? And turns out, you know,
pull you out there, people. He's a teddy bear. He's a gentle giant.
No, but I mean, I got along with this guy real good by the end of the day. I mean, we were together for 13 and a half hours. So, yeah.
Right.
How about you?
I'm just gonna give myself a pat on the back for surviving the last few days and not dying out there. Because
way to go, way to go.
I know. Actually, that sounds trivial, but I know there's a few caddies who occasionally go down. I know there was a player who went down.
Yeah, right in front of me. Yeah.
And I'm gonna feel proud of the fact that, or thankful for the fact that my body is holding up and I can still do this, because it hasn't been particularly easy the last few days. Now I know why some of those caddies from down south come up to us in the summer months. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, a bad caddy moment.
Can I give yours? Buy a new uniform.
What's that?
Get a new uniform.
You want me to get a new uniform? Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I actually need some new T-shirts too. They're just turning colors.
Oh, gross. Get sponsored on Twitter for that, please.
Yeah. Hey, white T-shirt company out there.
Hanes, maybe. Yeah.
No. What's a bad caddy moment for you?
Probably just going into a loop with a bad attitude with a guy that you typically haven't gotten along with very well. So yeah, do better.
Well, I'm sure you were better than you think. But hey, as always, a real pleasure to talk about this kind of stuff. And thank you to all you folks out there who are listening. We hope to be able to walk with you sometime, because it's a great reminder as we talk that this life we live is just like the game of golf. There's a whole bunch of shanks. There's a whole bunch of trouble out there, and we get ourselves into some messes, and we have some missed shots and some things that we'd rather have back. And yet, beautifully, there's always a next shot full of hope and opportunity. So take yours.